Hey guys, this is Brandy Fox with Be the Entrepreneur Consultant Agency, and I am super excited to come to you guys live tonight just to talk a little bit more about how to properly allocate your grant funds. So, as we know, Charlotte just had their Beyond Open Grant application process, which happened in the months of September and October. So, as we all know, people who applied for the grant or people who are considering it, that in December this month, they will be notifying all of the businesses who have been approved for the grant. They will be dispersing the funding and all that good stuff. So, with that being said, and during my consultation processes, I realized that it was a lot of entrepreneurs that are not familiar with how grant funding works. And what I mean by that is, how do you manage a grant once you get it? Because as we all know, a grant is totally different than a loan. When you get a business loan, for the most part, you're able to use that loan on whatever you want to use it on. Because at the end of the day, regardless of what you use that loan on, you're going to have to pay that money back. But with a grant, most of the time, grants are popular for nonprofits. So a lot of nonprofits are familiar with the grant management process, but for profits are not really in that nonprofit space to where they focus on grants or need grants for business funding. So I noticed that a lot of for profit businesses were not familiar with the grant management process. And the grant management process is super duper important because if you do not properly allocate your funds, you will have to, if you don't properly allocate your funds, you will have to pay that grant money back. So, as we know, anyone that did the Beyond Open Grant, each category, each tier had certain things that you could spend your money on if you got that awarded amount, and that process is consistent for most grants that you see. Also, anybody that jumped in, just tuned in, please be sure to share this live. We want to make sure that we are getting this information out to any and all entrepreneurs who are looking to get grant funding or have been struggling with getting grant funding. So, with that, or managing grant funding, excuse me. So, with that being said, when you are breaking down your grant money, you want to make sure, as I stated before, that you're spending it for exactly what you said you were going to spend it on. So, for example, if there was a grant out for $5,000 and that grant said that you can use this money on any office material, what people don't understand is that you have to use that on office material only, and you have to have proof with itemized receipts, an itemized receipt or receipts that break down everything that you purchased with that at that during that transaction. So, for example, if you go to Office Depot and you're utilizing that $5,000 grant funding, that means that on your receipt it should have everything dealing. If you use that grant money, it should be breaking down everything that you use that grant money for. So, for example, if you bought a new printer, paper, ink cartridges, a desk, table, I mean, not desk, table, I mean, a chair, office chair, anything like that that goes into the business funding, that falls into that category of why they gave you the grant, you can use that money on. But you have to make sure that you maintain your receipts per purchase. So that way, when it's time for your audit, and they will do a grant audit, and for those, and that's for any grant, when they give you money, they're going to follow back up and see how you spent that money. Specifically for this Beyond Open grant, for my watchers who are in Charlotte, specifically for this grant, you will have to you will get checked on quarterly. So quarterly, they will be requesting what you spent that money on. And just based on how it went with the PPP, people, especially entrepreneurs who are not used to a substantial amount of money, a lot of people get money, especially those who apply for that 20, 25,000, $30,000. I ain't gonna hold you. I know this just from being an entrepreneur and being around entrepreneurs. They get to thinking about how they can fund themselves, especially for new startup entrepreneurs, only because most of the time as a startup business, you're kind of struggling on, finances, management, which is why you apply for the grant so you can get more stable. But please note that unless this grant specifically says that this money can be used towards payroll or anything of that nature, do not pay yourself with this money. I'm telling, please, y'all, if y'all don't hear nothing else from this live, Do not use this beyond grant money or any grant money does not say that this can be used for payroll purposes, because you will get penalized. Not only will you have to pay the full amount of that grant back, but they can also take legal actions as well, because most of the time you sign some type of promissory note when you get this money, which is basically you guaranteeing that you are responsible for this money, that you're going to use this money how it was supposed to be used, and that you have proof of how you use this money. So please do not get caught up in the hype, especially, like I said, my new business owners who have not seen that such a large amount in their bank account. When you get to that 50, 60, 70, that's a lot of money in your bank account. And for some people, it burn a hole in your pocket. You're thinking about all the things that you can buy. I am telling you, if you try to get spadankly with this money, you will get caught up, because the good thing I love about grants is it holds everybody accountable. Everything that you pay for, it's going to show up on that bank account. It's going to show up on your transaction history, and it's going to show up on those receipts. So if what you have is not matching up to what you said you was going to spend the money on, then at that point, they're going to pull all your funds. Then you're going to be back where you left. And not only are you going to be back where you are, but you're also going to have to pay back money that you really didn't have because it was allotted as a grant. So with that being said, we're going to hop straight into the presentation. Once again, if you know anyone that is looking to get to learn more about this, please share on your page, share in any groups that you're in, so we can make sure that we're getting people out this information. All right, so this right here is the normal process for grants. The normal process for grants. Now, the Beyond Grant Open Grant was a little bit different, but this is the base process. There is really no way, there's really no way to, no one does it one set way. But normally you have a pre-qualification form. So basically, this is like a quick intake form. You answer a few questions, and with that, they'll let you know if you qualify for the grant that they have. And most of the time, they ask specific questions, so that way they can go ahead and get to that process of elimination. From there, they do a soft credit check. That is optional. All grants do not do soft credit checks. Like the Beyond Open Grant, that did not do a soft check. So with that being said, with that soft credit check, that will be a soft credit check is something where they can pull your base information of your credit history without putting a hard inquiry on your credit report, which means that it won't show up that they looked at it. But with that, of course, they're only able to say see a limited amount of things when doing a soft check, just because a hard check is necessary for those important information that some grants require. But a lot of times a soft credit check is usually what they do, if they even do that at all. A lot of times they go off your business model and your proposal and results. A lot of times people get frustrated with grants because they like, I'm applying for grants. I hear it all the time. I'm applying for grants. I'm applying for grants. I'm applying for grants. But I'm still not getting funding. What am I supposed to do? And at that point, I like to tell people, number one, grants are not guaranteed. I get so many people that ask me about let me go back. I get so many people that ask me about grant funding all the time. Like, I'm trying to get grants. I want to get grants. I don't want to pay it back. And I have two things. See, I got stuff all going on all over the place. Okay. So I have two things to say about that portion. Number one, if you are not willing to invest in your business, how do you expect somebody else to be able to invest in your business? Because especially as a for-profit business, like I said, the first thing I hear is, I don't want to have to pay it back. I want somebody to give me the money. This grant process for-profit businesses, this is not something that's common. Most of the time it's business loans. This is really a new process for the for-profit realm, which is why I decided to do this video. But let me be 100 with y'all. If you are not willing to invest in your business, how do you expect for somebody else to be investing in your business? If you cannot come to a lender and be like, hey, I got 10% of what you're trying to lend, how do you feel that they would not be, how do you feel that they will be able to trust you with 50,000 if you tell them you can't even give them 5,000? So just be realistic when y'all asking for this money. Nobody is just giving out free money. And your business model has to make sense. Number one, it has to have a purpose, and it has to have a profitable purpose. And where a lot of people mess up at is they're not innovative and creative with what they're doing. And I don't say this to knock any type of business model, but you have to remember that no matter what type of business you have, a unique selling factor is going to be a requirement. You have to know what sets you apart from everybody else. For example, when you get into, let's do this credit repair. Credit repair is really, really big right now. That's something that everybody's kind of hopping into, hopping out of. But you can't expect for somebody just to fund you because you have a credit repair business. Hey, I help people repair their credit. Okay, what is the purpose? How many people have you helped? Have you showed examples that you've helped people to the point where they've been able to get funding or secure housing? So you got to have some results driven behind what you're offering. So the grant or deny. So after you do your pre-qualification, your soft credit check, you send in your forms, they're going to opt to grant or deny you that amount of money that you asked for. I tell people all the time, if you're really looking for money, loans are quicker than grants. Grants are not guaranteed, and they're going to give it to the person who has the best business model that's really going to help the public more. Grants are really about helping populations, helping people, that type of thing. So your business model has to tie it to some type of helping factor. So with that being said, they're going to grant it or deny it. And then once they tell you, mind you, they might not give you a full amount. You might put in for a $50,000 grant. They might review your stuff and be like, okay, I like this idea, but I don't think it's worth 50. I'm going to give them 20 instead. So at that point, they're going to send you an email and they're going to ask you, do you want to take this amount? Hey, we saw your business model. We saw that you applied for the 50, but we're only going to give you 20 because we feel like that's what your business model is worth. At that point, you make an executive decision. Yes, I want to accept it. No, I want to deny it. And then from there, that's when that funding process goes into play. Guys, do not hesitate to ask me any questions. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to type it in the chat. This is a open Q&A session, so I want you to feel free to ask questions. I know that a lot of this information is new for some new entrepreneurs. So if you have any questions as I'm going through, please do not hesitate to drop it in the comment box. So moving forward, what is grant management? Grant management consists of all of the steps and processes that organizations must follow to satisfy the requirements of grant funding that they've been awarded. So basically, it's making sure that you have the effective systems in place to make sure that you are using the money the way you say you were going to use it, and also that you have proof that you are using it the way you said that you would use it. So those are all key elements of grant management. And like I said, my goal is to make sure that people do not get caught up in fraud because it's real. Y'all see it left and right now with this PPP loan. They are snatching people up left and right for PPP fraud. So, including hiring additional people to be able to do that. So you want to be real about your money, about how you manage it. Please do what you say you're going to do. Do not go out here buying clothes, shoes, material things. Really use it to invest in your business because that's something that a lot of people did. And this is a little off, but I just want to have a real transparent moment. When them PPP loans came out, you can really tell who used their money towards their business and who used their money for their personal benefits. And the thing about it is, you know who these people are because these are people who've had businesses for 2 to 3 years or more, and they're still in the same financial situation that they are. So like for me, when I consult with somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I've been owning my business for 4 years and I got the PPP. The first thing I'm asking you when you tell me that, well, one, I'm gonna ask you if you got it, but the first thing I'm asking you when you tell me about it is, what did you spend that money on? Because you still don't have a logo, you still don't have a website, you haven't hired anybody to help you, so you literally took that money from PPP and spent it on your personal needs. Now you got personal needs. Well, you have liabilities, is what we call it. Anything that does not go into the growth or reinvestment of your business is a liability. And of course, the goal is to invest more in your assets, more into assets, things that grow your financial portfolio than your liabilities, which hurt your portfolio. So I think in my head, you got $15,000 and you didn't use none of that money on your business. You literally took trips, bought clothes, all this good stuff. And now 2 to 3 years later, your business is still in the same position and then you come to me and tell me that you're trying to get grant funding because you don't want to pay it back. That is lazy. And I'm telling you, if you go into entrepreneurship with that mindset of I want somebody to give me, I want to get money, I don't want to have to pay back, that lets me know that you're not a person that's going to be accountable. And if you cannot hold yourself accountable to some type of financial budget, nobody is perfect, of course. But if you can't hold yourself to the responsibility of taking care of your business needs first, especially if you sitting here telling me that your business is so important to you, you want to grow it, you've been struggling, but then we go over your finances and you have not invested in your business, then that really lets me know where you are in your business. And it also let grant funders know where you are in your business, because y'all have to realize that with this grant funding, a lot of people, you got to think these grant reviewers, they've been doing this for a while, or they're going through a lot of applications. So with that being said, they know what to look for. They can tell a business plan of somebody who just got into this and they threw something together, or a business proposal of somebody that got it together, compared to somebody who really took their time and really focused on what they needed. In reference to the grant, the Beyond Open grant, one of the things I told a lot of my clients, like, as y'all know, tier 1 up to $20,000 was all you needed was 2 reference letters. I told all my clients, get a business plan, because if you got somebody that has a business plan and 2 reference letters, I guarantee you, if their business model is together and the business plan is together, let's say that everything is at top tier. If I, as a funder, got 2 applications and I had one person that gave me two letters of recommendation, and then I got another entrepreneur that gave me a business plan and 2 letters of recommendation, who do you think is going to get that funding? If we only had 20,000, who do you think is going to get that money? It's going to be that person with that business plan, because of course, yes, all you needed for tier 1 up to $20,000 was your 2 letters of recommendation, but who wants to do just enough? And the people that did just enough, it really opened my eyes as an entrepreneur to really see, like, people really do not take their business seriously, and they do not organize their business model the way they need to, especially when it comes to funding. So that ties once again to why I did this live today, because I need y'all to know what's necessary for you to be able to adequately organize your finances to make sure that you do not get into grant fraud. So moving forward, examples of grant management will include the following: documentation, financial tracking, project management, receipt management. Of course, there are other areas of this, but these are the main areas of grant management. These are your top 4 things that you should be focusing on when you're managing your grant allotments. 7 core steps of grant management. Number 1, right here, you want to review your grant requirements. Another thing about grants that people forget is that grants are usually service or product based. They usually give you money, like we talked about, for a specific cause. So with that specific cause, you need to make sure, number 1, that your business model falls into it. And sometimes, keeping it 100, sometimes if your business is close enough, you can tweak it a little bit to where it fits certain grant requirements. So for example, I teach adult entrepreneurship. That is what I focus on. Now, of course, I do teens, I do kids as well, but my primary target market is adults. But if I saw a grant that was for teaching kid entrepreneurs of all sexes and genders, then I feel like then my business model is close enough to what they're giving grant money for me to be able to tweak what I'm doing to be able to serve this population to apply for this grant, because teaching entrepreneurship is teaching entrepreneurship. The basics and the foundation of entrepreneurship, regardless of your age, regardless of what sector you're in, it does not change. So it's nothing for me to be like, okay, I do entrepreneurship training for adults, but okay, now I do entrepreneurship training for kids as well, and creating a program to be able to implement what they're requiring in the grant. That is a time where you can adjust your business model to a grant. What you don't want to do, and I said adjust, which means kind of pivot a little bit. But what you don't want to do, and what I see a lot of people do, and they end up not getting their grants because of this key reason, is they change their whole business model to be able to get grant funding. And I'm telling y'all, like I said, these are people who review grants on a regular. So they are familiar. They can really weed out who is really in what they're doing and who is just creating something to get funding. So just make sure that as you're applying for grants, that you meet the requirements. And it's okay if it's a grant and your business does not match what it's talking about, that's cool. Just go on about your business, apply for another grant. But be authentic and be real in your business model. Don't be a bag chaser. When I say don't be a bag chaser, not don't go after the money, but I mean don't be a bag chaser as in changing who you are for the money. Because at the end of the day, they're going to expect results based on that grant requirement. And if you cannot produce that, you got to pay that money back. The second step is identifying resources and roles. So now that you've reviewed the grant requirements, now you need to identify how can you meet the grant requirements. Do you have the connections to people to organize the programs that's needed? Who are going to be your team members? What are they going to do? How are they going to organize it? So you want to put a plan together on how you're going to be able to execute the requirements of the grants. Next, you want to create documentation. This would be the same as creating your grant proposal. So what your grant proposal will look like is all the elements of the grant. That will be the grant application, usually finances, usually a breakdown of your program curriculum, the business model broken down on a separate way so they can see exactly how you're going to use the funds, as well as seeing how you are going to allocate the funds into each sector. So you can be like, okay, we're going to spend $500 on a new customer management software so we can handle clients more efficiently. We're going to spend $5,000 on hiring an assistant for 1 year to do part-time admin work. So you really have to break down each person that's going to make this grant requirement, bring it to life, what their role is going to be, and how much it's going to cost you to incorporate that role into accomplishing the goals of the grants. Next, you're going to create a schedule of execution. Any grant provider and loan as well, they want to know how you're going to process this. You need to have a step-by-step. So the first thing I'm going to do once I get the funding, I'm going to do this. I'm going to hire a consultant for organization purposes. I'm going to hire a graphic designer to do my website, my logo, and my business cards. You need to have a step-by-step action of what you're going to do and how you're going to spend that money. So that way, when they check on you in 3 months and they look at your checklist, they can say, okay, it's been 3 months. Brandy said by this time, she going to have this in order. Let's check on her and see if she got this in order. And if she doesn't get this, if she doesn't have this in order, let's see what's going on. And either, depending on the type of agency, let's see what's going on and do an audit and pull and see what she didn't spend this money on, or let's see how we can assist. Either way, that information and how you've been spending your money, all that good stuff is going to be pulled. So you just want to make sure that you have a feasible execution timeline. Do not put too much pressure on yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because they're not being unrealistic. If it's a timeline you can't meet, just if it's something on your timeline that you said you would have done, but you didn't meet it, just make sure you're prepared to give them a reason why you didn't meet it. It's so many things that can occur. Let's say if you got funding for a building and one of your contractors pulled out. That is a viable reason on why you didn't finish get the project finished in time or didn't execute that step, because those are circumstances outside of your control. Now, if they come and ask why you didn't do it and you like, oh, I haven't found anybody yet, that's going to be an issue. So holding yourself accountable to your schedule of execution is going to be very important, and making sure you're creating one that's realistic that you can do. Then you want to create a financial report system. So that's basically like a QuickBooks, something like that, some type of account management software. You want to get that in place because you want to make sure that when they ask you for anything dealing with this funding, that you can pull that money and that you can pull up all your transactions. You can pull up that account. You can show them exactly what it is. Hey, I spent my money on this. All of this ties directly to the grant requirements. I'm in compliance. That y'all, and that's why people be so stressed out. Even with the Beyond Open grant, people were so stressed because they were not organized. Like the fact that I had some clients that have been in business over 3 years legitly, and they're full-time entrepreneurs, and they weren't able to provide something as simple as a P&L statement, which is your profit and loss, or even a cash flow statement, or even a budget, a startup budget of what they spend their money on. Literally, they did not have any of this. And if you think about it, y'all, how you manage your money now is how you go manage it when you get more. So you got to keep that in mind when you're not getting money as well. If you don't have a adequate financial system, financial reporting system in place, that's going to be a red flag, because how are you organizing your money? How are you knowing where your money goes? Because if you don't know where it's going, you don't know how you're spending it. If you don't know how you're spending it, then you definitely won't know how to allocate it, because you don't know where you need to allocate it in. What are your business areas of need that need the funding? So from there, report on your progress. This will be receipts. So with your receipts, you want to make sure that those are handled accordingly. You want to make sure you keep up with your receipts. Make sure they're itemized. Make sure that they can see exactly what you spent each amount on. So that way, when it comes to your audit time, you do not have anything that is keeping you from being able to prove that you spent the money that you spent it on. As well, this will tie directly to what we talked about, your schedule of execution. So your schedule of execution and your report on progress, those actually go hand in hand. You should be able to tell where you are and how much you spent for that project. So for example, going back to our housing model that we talked about earlier, for that one, it would be like, okay, so I said that by month 3, I will have the foundation for the house in place and the framework. So boom, that means that when you do your report, when you put in all the costs of the contractors, lumber, labor, all that good stuff, your schedule of execution and your report on progress should be equal. Boom, we bought lumber for the housing process. This costs this much. The contractors cost this much. And all of this goes into that first sector, that first execution step of getting the framework of the house done. Then the next one, let's say the next one is, once you get the house done, the next one is furnishing it. So your next step would be furnishing, and then you will break down what you spent on furnishing it. That will be all the receipts. So literally each step should have a cost analysis with it. How much you spent in this step. And like I said, those things to go hand in hand. If you do this, it's going to make it so much easier during your reporting time, because literally all you got to do is hand them this and it's already done. What a lot of people like to do is go spend the money. Then when it's time for audit, they trying to run around, get everything together, all this stuff. Just do it as you go, because the thing is, you already then made the plan. So why not just utilize the plan? You had to create a schedule of execution for you to get the funding. Use that and literally just put on there what you spent the money on. And that'll make it a lot easier, because I'm telling you, when they give you that deadline for your reports, they need that in. And running around like a chicken with your head cut off is not how you want to be. And it's not just in entrepreneurship in general. A lot of y'all that start in business, you want it to be your mainstream of income. You want this to be the only thing you're doing, and be able to sustain a good lifestyle, create savings, generational wealth, all that stuff. So in order to do that, proper money management is going to be required. And if you think that how you're spending your personal money now, if your account is overdrafting on a consistent basis, if you're going over your credit card bills, all those type of things, if you're having that issue now, you're going to have that same issue when you get additional money, because that's showing the funders that you do not know how to manage your money. And in order to be a successful entrepreneur, there is no successful entrepreneur out here that y'all can tell me that does not know how to manage their money. And if they don't know how to manage their money, they're hiring somebody who does know how to manage their money. So you either going to pay somebody to help you manage it, or you're going to have to do it yourself. But regardless, for anybody that's trying to grow a legit business and be a full-time entrepreneur and really be stable, comfortable, and make a profit, financial management is going to be key. Lastly, confirm all elements of your execution plan. So once you kind of got everything done, this is like your last step before you kind of submit your report and all that stuff. You want to confirm everything about your grant met all the grant requirements. You spent the money on what you wanted to spend it, supposed to spend it on. You documented it properly. You got your receipts. You want to keep all of these things organized so you can know exactly where you need to go when it's time for you to do your reporting for your funding. Now, the 2 ways that you can manage it's kind of small. Let me see if I can get this bigger. Okay, I can't zoom in, so it's hard for y'all to see. So I apologize. You just gotta turn on your active listening ears. But the two ways that you can do it is you can, number one, create a separate bank account, or you can do active documentation of every purchase. If I had to choose between the two, I would highly suggest getting a separate bank account. This will be what we would call your funding bank account. So this bank account will be where you will have your funds go for the grants that you have. So that way, let's say if you get a $50,000 grant from the Beyond Open Grant, what I would suggest you do is open another checking account, transfer all that money over into that checking account, and use that debit card solely for the grant requirements. That way, your transactions will be clean because it'll only be transactions that you use for the loan, for the grant, and you'll have active receipts because you'll be able to match up every purchase by getting a receipt. So let's go over the details of a separate bank account when you have grant funding. If you open that separate bank account, like I said, number one, that's going to be your funding account. So any monies that you have tied to a certain grant, you're going to drop it into that account and use that account specifically for that purpose. Number two, you will only use that only, and that's the key word. You will only use this funding account for the money that was allotted by the grant. Do not mix this account. Don't use this to go out to eat. Don't use this for any of your business expenses um that are not shown in your grant funding requirements on what you can spend your money on. Number three, you want to create a funding receipt folder in your Google Drive. Every business owner should have a business Google Drive. If you do not have one, I highly encourage you to get one ASAP. This is where you keep all of your documents. A lot of people, I had a lady that I consulted a couple of weeks ago, and she still got the old school. Like, she got an accordion folder and she got everything in there. But I let her know, that is good to have, but there are other ways to manage your business, and that would be creating your receipt Google Drive. So in your business Google Drive, there are certain folders that you should have. You should have a legals folder. The legals folder should have everything dealing with your business legality. This includes your LLC, if you have that, your S corp documentation, your articles of organization. You should also have in there your tax EIN number. You should have in there your bank account information. Anything dealing to contracts. Sorry, not the bank account. Take that out. That's another folder. Any type of contracts, anything like that should be in your legal folder. Anything that's legal. The next folder you should have is your finances folder. This is where you will put your receipts in. You will have a receipt folder. That receipt folder, that's where you will put every receipt for the grant funding. So you will call that folder grant funding receipts. And basically, once you finish not eating, excuse me, once you go out, do whatever you're doing, purchasing whatever you need to purchase for the grant, what I encourage people to do is go ahead and take a picture of the receipt ASAP. So as soon as they hand it to you, or as soon as you get in the car and you get settled, go ahead and pull out that receipt. Take your phone, because it's probably already in your hand or close anyway. Take a picture of it. You don't have to upload it right then, but the fact that you have that picture in your phone is great. And go ahead and share it right to your Google Drive receipt folder. That way you ain't got to worry about it. That way, if you misplace it, anything like that, you have already captured it, and you literally have all your receipts in one digital form. So when they ask for that audit, you can literally just share that folder with them, and they can see everything that you spent your money on. 4, you want to upload every single dime that you use that money for. Everything that you spend that money for, coming from that grant, you want to make sure that it is accounted for. So you want to upload everything. If you spend $5,000 at Lowe's, that receipt better equal $5,000, and everything on that receipt should be underneath the grant requirements. Now, the second way that you can manage your funds, and which I would not highly suggest, but it is an option for those who don't want to go through opening the bank account, all that good stuff. But that would be active documentation of every purchase. So, number one, you have to be really active in how you spend your money. So if you say, "Hey, I don't want to separate my account. I want to, I want to keep everything together." Just remember how much you really got and how much is in that grant. Because a lot of times for most businesses, and this is the startup process, not established business, but usually businesses that are within that 0 to 3 year the grants that you get is most of the time more than what's already in your bank account. So what you don't want to happen is you looking at your bank account and you thinking that you have these extra funds, and you use these funds, and your business funds start to run into your grant fund money. So basically what that looks like is you done spent all your normal money that you done made. So now you cutting into your grant money. So that's what you don't want to happen. And that's normally what happens when people decide not to separate their money. Then on top of that, it is so much harder, number two, to manage when you or your team is using one bank account for grant funding and regular transactions. Because now at the end of the month, when you do your itemization, you literally got to go through each transaction and figure out which one was for the grant and which one was for your business. Then once you do that, you have to match up the receipts to it. So like I said, when you do not separate your bank accounts, it makes it a lot harder for you to stay organized in your money management. Lastly, regardless of which option you choose, receipt management is a requirement for everyone. So even if you choose the harder way, just know that regardless of whichever way you choose, you need to be keeping up with those receipts. With that being said, that is the conclusion of today's mini lesson on how to properly allocate your funds. I hope that this information was beneficial for you. I hope that I answered some questions about grants that you might not didn't know prior to this post. But like I said, if you have any other questions, I am only an email away. You can reach me at brandy@betheentrepreneur.com. And I am going to drop that in the chat. And you can also set up one-on-one appointments. Let's say if you are interested in figuring out how to allocate your grants, or you still confused about this process, please feel free to set up a consultation with me. Our consultations are as cheap as $57, and we will help you with every step of the allocation process and getting your business model organized. Lastly, December 31st, if you are an entrepreneur who is struggling with your business model, you've been in business for years and you still have not increased your funds, you still feeling unorganized, you have not grown at all, then I highly encourage you, this is virtual and in person if you are in Charlotte, to join me for our 2023 Ain't Ready for Me business planning workshop. And if I had to rebrand it, I would definitely say strategic planning, because what we're going to be doing is bigger than just business planning. We're going to be strategically planning your success. And that's where a lot of businesses mess up at. They go into the new year, or they go into a new portion of their business, and they are not properly prepared. They don't have their foundational elements in place to be able to be prepared for what's next. And y'all, if you do not prepare, it's no way you can grow. You have to prepare. You have to be able to analyze where you are, where you're going, and how you're going to get there. And I know sometimes, especially as a new entrepreneur, that can be hard to do because it's hard to see the vision. So that's where I come in at as a business consultant, mentor, and just a love of entrepreneurship as well. And just being a goal getter all my life. My life has been based around goals. I set a goal, I give myself a timeline, I accomplish it. And I've literally been like that all my life. And I can honestly say by doing this, I have been able to adequately grow every year. I can say since I was in like the 5th grade, and that's no hold. Like literally every year I have gotten better as a person. I've gotten better with my businesses. I've increased my revenue. There has not, outside of the pandemic, there has not been a year where I have lost revenue. There has not been a year where my business models have backtracked, because I make sure that I invest in things that are important for my business growth and for me, as well as any business that is planning. People try to skip the planning process and go straight into starting their business. And next thing you know, they running around in a circle and they still in the same place they were 3 years. And they like, I want to quit this year, but you still making the same amount of money and you still running your business the way you did 3 years ago. So if you feel like that's you, or that's you, or somebody who was in that circle, 2023 is going to be our first kind of real pandemic free year. And it's really an opportunity, not free, but lower. So it's going to be a really good opportunity for businesses who have been struggling to really break those shackles and take your business to the next level. And I am here to support you in that transition by giving you strategic guided planning. It will include like refreshments, so you ain't going to be starving. I provide you with all the materials. You're going to get take-home materials, and I'm guaranteeing you guys the information I'm providing you is going to be pivotal. And it's the same type of information that I give to some of my paid clients that are looking to organize their business. I guarantee results. I guarantee if you execute what you're supposed to, I guarantee your business growth within the first quarter of 2023. So if you have not spent the best $20 that you didn't spend, this training is only $20. It is virtual and in person, but I guarantee you it will be the best $20 you spent in investing in your business. I know it's holiday time. Yo, child, I know they really want them shoes. I know they really know they want their game system, but you can really set your business apart and set yourself apart by investing in your business, by planning. That way, your kids ain't got to wait for just Christmas to be able to get gifts and get all the things they want. You will be able to have a business model that's making you the money to where you can buy your kids whatever they want anytime. So that's what I'm looking to create. So if you or anybody else you know are interested in strategic planning for only $20, this is normally a service that businesses are charging $100 per hour for. You can look it up for strategic planning. You're getting an hour and a half for only $20. So if you're looking to sign up, we do have open slots. You can find a link in the comments below. Go ahead and roll. Let's get 2023 on a roll. And everybody that applied for the Beyond Open Grant in Charlotte, I wish you the best of luck. I ask that you please be 100 and real when dealing with your money. Don't be out here being reckless. Be a real entrepreneur and do what you're supposed to do when you get this money. Outside of that, if you need me, y'all know how to reach me, Brandy Fox. You can DM me, shoot me a message, comment, email. I got you. I got your back. I love all of y'all. And my goal, of course, is to see us as Black entrepreneurs grow in this grand scheme of business ownership. Love y'all. Have a good night.